Hello and welcome. You should be on page 32 of your quarter 2 pre-algebra notebook. In this video, we're going to be talking about graphing ordered pairs on the coordinate plane. So you may remember the coordinate plane from your previous years, but in case you forgot, the coordinate plane is a two-dimensional surface that goes on forever in all directions. It's a flat surface, no thickness. Now it's defined by two lines, and these lines intersect each other at a right angle. The horizontal line is called the x-axis, and the vertical line is called the y-axis. Let's identify some other important parts of the coordinate plane. Where we all start is here at 0, 0, and this is called the origin. And it can be written as 0, 0. So you can note that if I have two lines dividing it, it's dividing it into 4 parts. And these 4 parts are called quadrants. So this first part, where x is positive and y is positive, is the first quadrant. And quadrants are labeled using Roman numerals. Now it might make sense, we normally do clockwise when we label, so this might be, it would make sense, it's the second quadrant. But it's actually going to go counterclockwise, and sometimes I like to think about this. This is the coordinate plane, so if I were to draw a C, I would actually draw it counterclockwise. So if you think about a C, this is my first quadrant. My second quadrant is over here, and my x values will be negative and my y values will be positive. Keeping on going, my third quadrant is here. I have x's that are negative and y's that are negative, and my final quadrant, the fourth quadrant, is here. X's are positive, y's are negative. Now you might have noticed that I labeled this origin with 2 numbers in parentheses. That's how we label the points on the coordinate plane. And we might call them points. We might call them coordinates. We might call them ordered pairs. But ordered pairs always have 2 numbers. They always have the x value, or the location of the point along the x-axis, and the location of the point along the y-axis. It is always x before y, just like x comes before y in the alphabet. Now, if we slide down a little more, we can apply what we are learning above and graph each of these points or ordered pairs or coordinates on this coordinate plane, and we can name the quadrant. So let's take a look. One thing to note when you're graphing is you're always going to graph where your x is first and then your y. It goes in order, like reading, x to y, just left to right. So let's look at point A. Point A says that x is at 0. You always start at the origin. Well, if it's at 0, it means I'm not going right and I'm not going left. Y says positive 3. Well, if it's positive, I'll go up 3. 1, 2, 3. So point A is right here on the y-axis. So it's not in any quadrant. It is on the y-axis. Let's look at our next point, which is negative 4, 0. Now remember, we're going to look at our x first. We're going to start here at the origin, and this tells me I'm going negative 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 0 in the y tells me I'm not going up or down. So my point B is right here on the x-axis. So it is not in a quadrant. It's not in the first, second, third, or fourth quadrant. It is on the x-axis. When I look at point C, I'm going to look at my x. I'm going to start here at the origin, and it looks like I'm going positive 1, right 1. Then it is positive 2 for my y coordinate, so I'm going to go up 2, and C will be right here. Well, it looks like if I look up here and I compare this, C seems to be in the first quadrant, so it is in quadrant. Oops, not quadrat. Quadrant 1. Okay, moving on to D. I see, starting at the origin, that I'm going to go left 3 because it's negative. 1, 2, 3. Then it's positive in the y coordinate, so I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So D is over here, and that looks like that it is in quadrant 2. Moving on to E, I start at the origin, and I've got a negative 1, so I'll go left 1. And negative 2, negative in my y coordinate means I'm going to go down. 1, 2. So E is over here, and that looks like it's in quadrant 3. The final point looks positive and positive. Can you guess what quadrant that might be in? If I look up here, it looks like when I have positive, positive, I'm in quadrant 1. Let's take a look if that's the truth. I start here at the origin. It's positive x, so I'll go right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's a positive y, so I'll go up, 1, 2, 3. Well, our prediction was quadrant 1, and it ends up being true. Quadrant 1. So something to think about. If I have an x, y value where x is positive and y is positive, I will be in quadrant 1. If I have a value where x is negative, but y is positive, I'll be in quadrant 2. Then, if I have a value where x is negative and y is negative, like point E right here, so negative, negative, I'll be in quadrant 3. And we didn't graph any points here, but it looks like x will be positive and y will be negative. And that is in quadrant 4. So it's always nice to kind of have a pattern so you can kind of identify and get a feel for where things are. Now let's go down here and we're going to name the points that are graphed. So we can practice looking at a point and figuring out where it is. So I need to have an x and a y for each point. Let's look at point A. I want you to remember that we always start at the origin. So this point looks like I'm going, and we always go left to right first. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. So that is negative 4 because I'm going left. And now I'll go 1, 2, 3 up. 3 up is positive, so it's a positive 3. Point A is at the coordinates negative 4, 3. Let's look at B. I start at the origin, and you know what? I don't even have to go anywhere. It doesn't go left or right, so my x coordinate is 0, and it doesn't go up or down. So my y coordinate is also 0. Point B is at the origin. Alrighty, now let's look at point C. I'm going to put my first parenthesis, start here at the origin, and I'm going to go left to right first. It looks like I'm going right, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's positive 4. C is not going up or down, so it is at a y of 0. Now moving on to point D, get my parenthesis ready. Start at the origin, I go right 1, so that's positive 1. And then I go down 2, 1, 2. Down is negative, so it's a negative 2. And this kind of shows us an example of a point plotted in the fourth quadrant. It is positive, negative. Final point isn't labeled, so we'll just make that E. And let's get the coordinates for that. I'm starting here at the origin. I'm going to go left 2. Left is negative. And I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Down is negative. So hopefully that was a helpful review of plotting points on the coordinate plane. Thanks so much.